Hey Bats, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about some SCP content with Dr. Des M. Astor, and I'm here to bring you 3 of the creepier SCPs. I'm going to get right into it. My first choice is SCP-610. SCP-610, also known as the Flesh That Hates, is Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Due to the vast area of infection SCP-610 covers, containment is impossible. Isolation of the area has proved far more effective, and permission has been granted by the Russian government to establish a perimeter to keep people out of these areas under the guise of military operations. Should any organism displaying traits consistent with SCP-610 be sighted near this perimeter, then the established protocol requires it to be engaged at range with small arms until immobile, then dispatched using incendiary weapons and munitions from as great distance as possible. Any living thing coming in physical contact with an organism infected with SCP-610 is considered expendable and is to be immediately terminated and incinerated. Any persons coming within 3 meters of SCP-610 infected life are to immediately withdraw from the area, be isolated from the rest of their team, and subjected to medical examination using only remote techniques to determine if the infection has occurred and appropriate steps taken based on that determination. At present, the known infection vectors for SCP-610's spread seem to be focused on physical contact. Drone movements within heavily infected areas have returned air samples containing minute particulate, which, when exposed to organic compounds, will result in the spread of SCP-610. The results of these particular tests have been revealed that most require several days to manifest, if at all, with the exception of direct contact with exposed lung and liver tissue. These particular tests show a rapid growth which requires incineration of the testing environment no more than 24 hours after the initial exposure, with even a 2-hour mishap risking a compromised facility event. Given this kind of rapid growth only occurs in organic material existing outside the human body, this form of infection is currently considered a minor concern. These peculiarities have given rise to a series of questions regarding the possible origin of the infection. In conjunction with the failed containment protocol remains at a scorched earth policy at this time, and no concern for transmission via water or air at infection perimeters exists barring situational changes in the field. Description: Initial reports of SCP-610 came direct from the Russian government through undisclosable channels. These reports consisted primarily of disappearances of farmers in the region and were not considered until the local police, followed by the regional police, and finally a government-dispatched agent, all failed to report within 72 hours. A small military contingent was dispatched to the area and quickly withdrew, at which point the Foundation was contacted to investigate. The area SCP-610 affects is close to Lake Baikal in southern Siberia. Areas of known infection are marked on a map provided to us. Containment perimeters are marked in blue surrounding these infection areas, and as of present no further locations have been identified. Incursions into the perimeter must be reported prior to conducting, confirmed during exploration, and debriefed on immediately following return. SCP-610 appears to be a contagious skin disease, at first with symptoms including rash, itching, and increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours, the disease will cause blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue to form in the chest and arms area, spreading to the legs and back within an additional hour, consuming the victim completely within 5 hours. Exposure to higher temperatures vastly decreases the time for the contagion to spread, and complete infections have been recorded occurring in as little as 5 minutes. After the completion of the infection occurs, the victim's life functions will cease for approximately 3 minutes, after which time they will restart at 2 to 3 times the activity rate of a normal human. Following this, the scar tissue on the victims will start to move of its own accord and grow at a rapid rate. Normal human features start to disappear at this point under the infection, and the path of mutation appears to largely be random. Subjects observed in this stage of infection have been recorded as growing 3 or more limbs of a type such as arms or legs, The head may become misshapen and elongate or widen out, and parts of the subject may split open, from which additional branches of flesh will grow. The duration of this stage of infection is unknown, and not all subjects appear to progress to the later stages. Under unknown conditions, an infected individual will cease moving and place itself in a location it deems suitable where it roots itself. The fleshy growth on the victim will then begin to spread itself all around surrounding objects and consume them. Such objects do not spread the infection as living creatures do, however, and the effect of prolonged contact with these objects is recorded later in this document. It is assumed that this behavior is to create an area hospitable to continued growth of the other infected. Observation of life infected by SCP-610 by staff is impossible. Those infected with the disease immediately seek out aid as natural human impulse, resulting in unintended infections. Those infected past the scarce tissue phase actively and aggressively attempt to infect anyone approaching them within an undefined area. It has been established that should an infected be capable of sight and observe an uninfected, it will proceed toward them. If the infected has lost the ability of sight, a range of approximately 30 meters is considered safe. Observation of SCP-610 infected settlements have been established using artificial methods such as remote robots. The data returned from these observations, coupled with the openly aggressive nature of the infected to attempt to spread SCP-610, has resulted in the Keter classification. However, so long as nothing is allowed to enter or leave the infected areas, it is considered a neutralized threat. Of concern are the cavernous areas beneath the infected settlements that were discovered during the exploration, and attempts to get research personnel into these areas are underway. Field logs. SCP-610-L1. A small remote-controlled rover is sent to Site A to locate missing personnel. SCP-610-L2. An infected Class D personnel is sent into Site C with video equipment. SCP-610-L3. Initial discovery of the tunnel entrances at Site A. SCP-610-L4. Unmanned exploration of the Site A tunnels. SCP-610-L5. Manned exploration of the Site A tunnels. The following field report is for Class A or higher personnel only. Unauthorized viewing of this file is strictly prohibited and will be considered a violation of Foundation contracts and breach of international law. SCP-610-L6. Exploration records of Operation Source Point. So I picked the Flesh That Hates for the most creepy because the features it morphs is very eerie, and anything to do with morphing faces always really, scares me quite a bit. I don't know why, it's very interesting. Normally, I don't really find myself very afraid of zombies. I don't think that they're that interesting, but the Flesh That Hates takes zombies into a different level. I guess sort of like what you would think Resident Evil would be in the earthly video games and such like that. But yeah, having witnessed some of it firsthand, it's super creepy, and I don't recommend going anywhere near those sites. They're absolutely terrible. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. SCP-087, The Stairwell. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-087 is located on the campus of... The doorway leading to SCP-087 is constructed of reinforced steel with an electro-release lock mechanism. It has been disguised to resemble a janitorial closet consistent with the design of the building. The locking mechanism on the doorknob will not release unless bolts are applied in conjunction with counterclockwise rotation of the key. The inside of the door is lined with 6 centimeters of industrial foam padding. Due to the results of the final exploration, see document 087-4, no personnel are permitted to access SCP-087. Description: SCP-087 is an unlit platform staircase. Stairs descend on a 38-degree angle for 13 steps before reaching a semicircular platform of approximately 3 meters in diameter. Descent direction rotates 180 degrees at each platform. The design of SCP-087 limits subjects to a visual range of approximately 1.5 flights. A light source is required for any subjects exploring SCP-087 as there are no lighting fixtures or windows present. Lighting sources brighter than 75 watts have shown to be ineffective, as SCP-087 seems to absorb excess light. Subjects' report and audio recordings confirm the distress vocalizations from what is presumed to be a child between the ages of and the source of the distress calls is estimated to be located approximately 200 meters below the initial platform. However, any attempts to descend the staircase have failed to bring subjects closer to the source. The depth of descent, calculated from Exploration 4, the longest exploration, is shown to be far beyond both the possible structure of both the building and geological surroundings. At this time, it is unknown if SCP-087 has an endpoint. SCP-087 has undergone 4 video-recorded exploration by Class D personnel. Each subject conducting an exploration has encountered SCP-087-1, which appears as a face with no visible pupils, nostrils, or mouth. The nature of SCP-087-1 is entirely unclear, but it has been determined that it is not the source of the pleading. Subjects exhibit feelings of intense paranoia and fear when faced with SCP-087-1, but it is undetermined whether said feelings are abnormal or simply natural reactions. Addendum. Over a period of 2 weeks following Exploration 4, several members of the staff and students from campus reported knocking at a variable rate of 1 to 2 seconds per knock coming from the interior of SCP-087. The door leading to SCP-087 has been fitted with 6 cm thick industrial padding. All reports of knocking have ceased. Authorized personnel may refer to documents 087-1 through 087-4 for transcripts of explorations 1 to 4. If people are interested, I can read those documents, but those explorations basically detail D-Class going down the stairs, sometimes placing lights on the walls that do not stick, and eventually running into that very creepy face, in which some of them that do get out enter a comatose state, which, as far as I know, they have not gotten out of. And one of them, I believe, actually just continued to go down the stairs and was never seen again. I chose this SCP for one of my creepy ones because it's an endless, seemingly endless anyway, staircase with very creepy faces, and featureless faces get me quite good in terms of the creep factor. With all the power I have, I still would not try to descend that place. I feel bad for the D-Class personnel until I learn what they did to be D-Class, and I feel less bad. So, avoid the staircase. Don't go down any creepy staircases. They can be pretty bad. I mean, imagine looking down and seeing something there that's even worse, and being unable to open the door as it comes up the stairs. You can hear the banging. Very scary. It's a good staple of horror movies, I would say. As for the last creepy SCP, I'm going to talk about When Day Breaks, or 001. Now, this isn't going to be in the normal format because I could not access the file due to a incident. Well, the incident's called. Anyway, so I'm going to just talk about it. So When Day Breaks is one of the famous apocalypse scenarios that Earth could go through and be a complete end to humanity and life generally as we know it. The sun will obtain somewhat of a red tinge and everyone melts into this waxy substance, but you're all still alive. Everyone remains alive and they sort of coagulate. They combine into this big waxy mixture that moves around sort of like slugs and tries to absorb everyone else. You can cover yourself completely from the sun and try not to overheat. Good luck. And even then you could be captured by these monsters, stripped of all clothing, and melted into a wax biomatter substance itself. I've seen comments and rumors that the scenario is actually the sun being benevolent and saving you from... But, I mean, that's suspect. I don't really know how helpful being turned into a mass of gooey grossness is going to help. I chose this one as the creepy apocalypse scenario because one of the realms I hopped to, that's exactly what happened, and it is not very fun to feel yourself being melted by the sun. You do eventually die. Your soul does anyway. That shell husk of your body, though, remains there and is a, like I said, a shell or shadow of your former self. It's not you anymore. However, you do remain in that for approximately days before eventually your soul, or whatever the heck that is, moves on. So, not very fun. Avoid that nightmare apocalypse at all costs. Other creepy thing is no one really knows what causes it, or when it'll happen, if it will happen to this dimension. So fingers crossed that it won't, or that a less bad apocalypse will happen, as silly as that sounds. Anyway, if you like this SCP content, and you want to follow more of it, learn about more from Dr. Des M. Astor's perspective from the Foundation, let me know, and like and subscribe. I don't know if I've said that already, and sorry if I did. Comment, though, to let me know what you think of these 3 SCPs, and what I should cover next. I definitely want to cover some of the stories written in the more story format, as opposed to the files. Those are a lot of fun, so I think I'll do that in the future, maybe even the next SCP video. Thank you for tuning in, and have a nice day or night wherever it is at where you're at. Bats.